Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Popcorn Podcast. I'm Dylan, of course, and I hope everyone's doing good during this lockdown period. If you haven't seen my previous video, it was just a little welcome to the channel video, a little talk about what kind of videos I'm going to be making here on the Popcorn Podcast. So be sure to go and check that out. I'm going to leave the link down in the description below. So yeah, let's get started. Today is the first official video I'm going to be talking about some movies. And in this video, I'm going to be discussing some films that I have some really fond childhood memories watching. So coming in at number 10, we have The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Admittedly, this film isn't actually the strongest movie when it comes to the fantasy genre. There are quite a few films that have done it better. Like, of course, Lord of the Rings and obviously Harry Potter, which we'll come on to later on in the video. But there was something about Narnia as a location, as a new magical world that drew me into watching this film so many times as a kid. The siblingship between the four main characters, Peter, Susan, Edmund and Lucy, was something I could definitely relate to, and their story of realizing their destiny and coming together as a family to obviously defeat the White Witch was something that was a story that I really got very engrossed in. And as a child watching this, it was just really epic to see a story of this magnitude and the sheer scale of it, particularly when it comes to the third act of the film, when there's a huge battle, something that I thought was really entertaining to watch as a kid. So yeah, The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So coming in at number 9, we have The Mummy. And now, of course, I'm talking about the 1999 version and not the garbage 2017 remake with Tom Cruise. I love you, Tom Cruise, but honestly, that film was just an abomination. But yeah, anyway, first and foremost, I just want to say that by no means am I recommending this film to anyone who has kids or anyone who wants to show their kids some good films to grow up with and make some really fun memories, because like me, they will get nightmares watching this as a child. I really don't know how this film has ended up on this list, but I used to have the DVD in my collection, or at least my parents did, and I would sneakily take it and obviously watch it as a kid. I thought I was really cool for doing so, and I would come into school and tell all my friends about it and then give them nightmares, and then their parents would complain to my parents about how I was scaring the shit out of them. This film really didn't set a good example, but nonetheless, we're here talking about it. The Mummy. This film actually inspired me to go out and watch a ton of horror films leading up to my teens. It is quite a scary and gruesome film. There are a lot of gory deaths in this film, particularly watching it as a kid, and but at the same time, there is a great sense of adventure to this film, and I actually think that The Mummy is quite an underrated and underappreciated film. No one ever seems to be talking about it, but it's something that I obviously have up in here from a lot of memories as a kid watching it. Surprisingly, also, there are quite a lot of humorous moments in this film. This film's actually hilarious at some points. And a lot of that has to do with the chemistry between the actors, like Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. And The Mummy actually does a really good job of obviously balancing the fantasy elements with the horror elements, some great action, and obviously some great humor as well. And it all plays out to be what I think is a really enjoyable experience if you're watching it, obviously a bit older, not as a kid. As a kid, you could only focus on the scary scenes and the terrifying deaths. So please don't go ahead and scar your kids or scar little kids with this film, because it definitely has the potential to do so, like it did to me. So at number 8, we have Finding Nemo. Now, this film is oddly one of my favorite animated films growing up as a kid. I say oddly because I'm going to tell you why this particular film, amongst a lot of the others, like Shrek or Toy Story, as a kid, as a young kid, was one of my favorites. And that's to do with the fact that I had a weird phobia of watching the animated versions of humans on screen. For some reason, I always found them quite frightening. Was that just me, or is anyone else out there can they relate? Can you relate to this? Because I honestly, some of the films, some films like Shrek, yeah, I loved Shrek and whatever, but like the humans in that film were always so frightening to me. I don't know why. I still don't know why to this day. It was just such a big thing for me. But honestly, I hated watching it. And who remembers this girl from Nemo? This girl, I think her name is Darla. Yeah, gave me nightmares. Probably more nightmares than the mummy gave me as a kid, and that's just ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, how the hell is a child friendly film like Nemo making more of a traumatic impact on me as a kid than something like the mummy? But yeah, no. Aside from all that ridiculous stuff, at the core of this film, Finding Nemo is a story about parents and the relationship between them and their kids, and the lengths they will go to obviously protect them. And it has some really good morals and lessons that me as a child, when I watched it, I learned a lot from this film. So definitely, I think it's a movie that as many kids should see across the world. So yeah, Finding Nemo is at my number 8. So coming in at number 7, we have X-Men. Now, this film came out in the year 2000, which was 1 year after I was born. And of course, it debuted Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. And not many actors in Hollywood can say that they've played a character consistently for 17 years. But honestly, I'm so grateful for this film because it gave me a series of movies that I have grown up my whole life watching, and have only recently ended last year. So from the year 2000 to the year 2019, this group of characters, even though they haven't always been played by the same actors, the core of the films is about the struggles of being different in society, and discrimination. And of course, as a kid, I didn't really pick up on those elements of the film, but I just thought this was the coolest superhero team up. It was the only superhero team up aside from obviously like Fantastic Four, just all before the Avengers phase of the MCU. So growing up as a kid, I wanted to suit up and join the X-Men on their crazy fucking adventures, right? Going and saving the world. And I thought Wolverine was the most badass character ever. Honestly, the first scene you see him in X-Men 1, where he's cage fighting and the guy goes to punch him and then he hits his adamantium skeleton, that was just awesome to me as a kid. And yeah, I definitely got a lot of good experiences watching this very first X-Men film, even though it was quite dark and gritty as opposed to other superhero films that were very, very bright and vibrant. There was something about X-Men that intrigued me as a child, and developed my love for on-screen comic book adaptations. So yeah, X-Men, I definitely wouldn't be the superhero fanatic that I am today without it. So yeah, X-Men is at number 7 on my list. So coming in at number 6, we have The Karate Kid. And now I think this film came out in 1984, I think it was, which was 15 years before I was even born. And growing up as a kid, I didn't really like watching old movies. I used to find them really dull. Any film that hadn't really incorporated, the latest special effects or just made use of new technology or whatever, I just found really dull to watch. But The Karate Kid was a film that I stumbled upon because my parents would often take me to my auntie and uncle's house. And I didn't really have anyone there I could, talk to, because no one there was my age. Everyone was older, an adult. So every time I went to my auntie and uncle's house, I would just get in front of the TV and watch movies. And my cousin one day showed me The Karate Kid, and he said it was his favorite film growing up as a kid. So I watched it, and I really connected with it. I really connected with the main character, Daniel, who obviously finds himself in this story of overcoming hardships and persevering. and I was really fascinated by his relationship with Mr. Miyagi, of course, who is of course the star of this film and who is iconic, in particular for the wax on, wax off scene. The film taught me a lot about you know, calming your mind and being patient, and that was really something I took on board, especially due to the fact that I was a really wild and crazy and very naughty child. The Karate Kid, yeah, it was. There's something about the teacher-student relationships in films that I really connected with as a kid. And not only was in the Karate Kid, but also I found the parallels in, you know, the relationship between Yoda and Luke Skywalker in Star Wars, which obviously we'll talk about later. And yeah, I just thought the Karate Kid almost, actually no, you know what it was? It was. It is kind of a life-changing experience for me, and even though I don't watch it as regularly as I did as a kid now, it is something that I really have fond memories experiencing. So, yeah, The Karate Kid is at my number 6 on this list. Now, coming in at number 5, we have two films. And I know I've cheated a little bit here, but honestly, I can't think of which was more significant to me as a kid growing up. They're both Disney films, one of them being a Disney Pixar film. The first is The Lion King, and the second is The Incredibles. Now, The Lion King, what's there to say that hasn't already been said 1,000 times before about this film? It is a staple in everyone's film going experience. If you haven't seen The Lion King, please pause this video right now because I'm about to spoil something. Please pause this video right now and go and watch the film and then come back and press play and watch the rest of this video, because honestly, if you haven't seen The Lion King, I don't know what you've been doing. The Lion King transformed me in more ways than I actually thought originally. It definitely made me more of an emotionally receptive film lover as a child. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the film is really heartbreaking. And of course, you know what I'm talking about. You know Mufasa and his tragic death that, to be honest, I still haven't got over. But yeah, his death really made me really connect with this film on an emotional level. The amount of tissues I used as a kid, crying myself to sleep every night after I watched this film on repeat, was countless. And yeah, this film is a really, really heartfelt film. It's a must see. It really is, of course. And yeah, there's nothing more I can say about this film. Just go and watch The Lion King. And yeah. Now, looking back on The Incredibles, it was actually a cinematic miracle, because it's like Disney and Pixar came together and they made a film just for me. They took my love for superheroes and the superhero genre, and they also took my love for animated films and combined the two. Now, I know I said I was terrified of looking at human animated on-screen depictions, but The Incredibles was just too good of a film to even think about that. Now, in my opinion, The Incredibles is truly one of the greatest animated films to ever exist. Not only is it a great animated film, it's a great action film. It's got some incredible action sequences, and fight sequences, battle sequences, whatever. It's not only an action film, but it also is a family drama. The exploration of the family dynamics and how these characters have to come together and work as a team. And on top of that, it's genuinely hilarious. Okay, it's so funny. There's so many funny moments in this film, and balancing all these different tones should have been a disaster. But for some reason, for some miraculous reason, this film pulls everything it tries to do off perfectly, and I love it. Okay, so coming in at number 4, we have the Indiana Jones films. I'm not talking about the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, even though I don't hate that film as much as most people do. I'm, of course, referring to the first 3, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Temple of Doom, and the Last Crusade. Now, these films, I honestly think that they are some of, if not the greatest adventure films ever put to screen. A lot of that has to do, of course, with the really compelling and really immersive stories. The first one is all about the Ark of the Covenant. The second one, of course, Indy and his friends are trying to escape a crazy cult. And of course, the third one has to do with the Cup of Life and the Knight's Crusade. And of course, Sean Connery comes on board that, which was just fantastic. These films, honestly, I loved watching these films, and so did my family as well. They were a big part of why I was into them so much as well. And of course, Harrison Ford, he was probably my favorite actor growing up as a kid. Not only did he play Indiana Jones, but of course he played Han Solo. So he was a very iconic part of my my experience as a film lover, being very young. In addition to all that, these films have some really incredible action sequences that utilize real sets, some great stunt choreography as well. And that's something, when I look back on those films as well, that I can really appreciate amongst the countless, CGI special effects that have been used in films throughout the years. Looking back on the Indiana Jones films, I can really respect them for how ambitious they were to really, get their hands dirty with those kind of sequences. On top of that, of course, you have the really iconic John Williams score. Da, 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 you get the thing. I'm not going to sing the whole thing for you. But yeah, Indiana Jones, really huge part of my experience watching films as a child. And yeah, I definitely recommend watching them if you haven't already. Okay, guys, coming in at number 3, we have another tie. It's got really difficult to continue this list. Quite frankly, any film that I talk about from now onwards could have easily made it as my number 1 spot. But at number 3, we have Star Wars and we have Harry Potter. I think one of the reasons why these films are so successful is the degree to which they world build. So the universes and the worlds created within these stories are just incredible. As a kid, I always wanted to obviously go to Hogwarts. I wanted to get my letter and go to Hogwarts. I wanted to be in Gryffindor, of course, just as Harry, Hermione, and Ron are. I wanted to go and play Quidditch. I wanted to do a great many things, but of course, magic doesn't exist. Or does it? On the other hand, we have Star Wars. As a kid, I would want to join Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, become a Jedi, train with Yoda, fight Darth Vader, go on the Millennium Falcon, travel the galaxy far, far away. And to this day, the impact that these films have had on me have just been astounding. Every year I watch these films, it never gets boring, and I don't think, there are very, very few films out there that can replicate or come close to the magic that these films have brought into my life as a film watcher. So Harry Potter and Star Wars, there's not really much more I can say to you guys about them that, once again, hasn't already been said before. But yeah, super, super nostalgic for me, super, super iconic. And yeah, to this day, I love discussing and love talking about them. And you can definitely expect a lot more videos on these film franchises in the future from me. Okay, guys, coming in at number 2, we have Spider-Man. Now, I'm actually going to sit here and say it. This film single-handedly launched my obsession into the comic book genre and superhero films as a whole. This was the film that started it all. I do really love Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield's portrayal of Spider-Man in the later films. But for me, there's something really nostalgic about seeing Tobey Maguire in the costume, the way his Peter Parker transformed into the fully fledged web-slinging superhero that I cherish to this day. Yeah, Spider-Man was truly a special film for me. It made me open my mind and be a creative young kid. It made me want to write more. It made me want to innovate more growing up. And yeah, I just owe a lot to Sam Raimi's original trilogy and, of course, this very first Spider-Man film. Right, the moment everyone has been waiting for. The number 1 film. This film had the most impact on me as a kid. This is the film I watched the most in comparison to all the films I watched as a child growing up. This is the film that quite possibly started it all. This is the film that is the first reason why I'm actually talking to you guys right now, and it has channeled my passion for movies throughout the years. And that film is Jurassic Park. You know, aside from all the superhero and action stuff and all the animations and whatever, Jurassic Park is a film that I have the oldest memories watching. This is the film I can first ever remember watching ever. And I actually have my original DVD case and obviously DVD inside. It's kind of a personal treasure of mine. I think this might be quite surprising for some of my close friends, just because I don't really seem to talk about Jurassic Park the way I do about other film franchises or whatever. And that's because the quality of the Jurassic Park films have just unfortunately not been anywhere as near as good as the first one. You know, I really like The Lost World, the second one, but aside from that, the third Jurassic Park film and the Jurassic World films, despite being enjoyable to watch, they don't do the first film justice. For me, Jurassic Park was somewhere I could escape to as a child. And you know, growing up, I thought dinosaurs were the coolest things ever. You know, to live in a world with dinosaurs, despite all the chaos portrayed in the film, I didn't give a shit. I just wanted to see dinosaurs come to life. And you know, Steven Spielberg, you know, made my dream, you know, a reality. So Jurassic Park for me, yeah, there's nothing more nostalgic than this film. And yeah, I owe a lot to it, and I just won't be sitting here talking to you guys if it wasn't for this. So yeah, Jurassic Park is my number one. So guys, that was my top 10, maybe 12 most significant films on my childhood, the films that had the most impact on me growing up as a kid. I hope you enjoyed that list. Please feel free to comment down below. I'd love to hear what films made you as a child growing up. And if you like movies, feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video and share it. I'd really appreciate it. If you can check the link down below, there is a link to my previous video, and in the description there will be my Instagram. If you guys want to go and give that a follow, please feel free to do so. I've been Dylan, and I'll see you guys very soon in another video.